at 8:31. My name is Gail Carey. I'm not Ann Welsh. She couldn't be here today. So I'll be sitting in her stead. And I would like to go around the room and have each person introduce themselves and their role on the committee. So Neil, do you want to start?
Sure. Neil Slepian, Conservation Commission representative.
Good morning, Mirta Janos, Parks and Rec representative.
Marty Gorham, member at large.
Gail Carey, member at large.
I'm Todd Selig with the Town of Durham.
John Carroll, Durham Agricultural Commission.
Sarah Callahan, Land Stewardship Coordinator.
Wonderful, thank you. And I believe we have a quorum. John, myself, Marty, Mirta, and Neil. So we can proceed.
Craig, is Ann online? I talked to her yesterday and she said she may or may not make the meeting through Zoom.
Nope, she's not here.
Okay.
Okay. So the first order of business is to approve the meeting agenda. Are there any changes that people want to make to the suggested changes? Anything? No? Is there a motion to approve the meeting agenda?
I so move.
A second?
Second.
Thank you, Marty. So all in favor of approving the meeting agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So approved. Okay. The next item of business is to approve the minutes for the May 8th, 2024 meeting. And you should have received a copy from Ann of those minutes. I was not at that meeting, so I'm going to recuse myself from any discussion or voting on that. Any changes to the minutes?
Well,
Yes.
Gail, I have a comment, not necessarily a change, but number 8, when we were talking about potentially making or exploring making one of the trails at Wagon Hill wheelchair accessible, my question would be, well, the comment was it would be worthwhile to explore what would be required to modify and improve the trail. So I would like to suggest that we put that on a future meeting agenda item to actually, proceed to explore that and to come up with a plan to explore it.
Okay.
Because-
I'm going to touch base a little bit on that today during
Oh,
my
okay,
update.
good.
And I'll give you, going to talk to the committee about a couple different routes we can look at.
Okay.
Okay?
Great.
So are there any changes to the minutes as such, but just that point?
It was just a comment.
Okay. Yeah.
Gail, did you say the May 8th meeting minutes?
Well, that's...
Or the
what it-
June?
Oh, it should be June. You're correct. June
Okay.
12th.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
I have a comment
Okay.
on these minutes. On item 2, where it reads, the order of the meeting agenda was approved. I'm thinking that should probably read, the meeting agenda was approved, or is that?
That seems very straightforward.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a suggested change. Yeah. Anything else from the June 12th minutes? Okay. So, let's see, could I have a motion to approve the minutes from June 12th with a change to item number 2, the words order of the removed?
Can I have an addition to number 6? Sorry. My head was somewhere else for a second. So it said that the grant would cover the resurfacing and repair of the 100 and 300 foot bog bridges, but it also includes the replacement of a wetlands crossing along the Yellow Trail. So I just wanted to make sure that that was also included.
So include language that says and replacement.
For funds to help repair and resurface the 100 to 300 foot long bog bridges and replace a wetland crossing along the yellow trail, is what I have in my notes.
And replace a wetlands crossing along the yellow trail?
Yes.
Okay. So that would be another change. Yeah. Any other
Okay.
suggested changes? No. So, let's see, do we have a motion to approve the meeting minutes for June 12th with those two changes?
I so move.
John? Second?
I second.
Second, Mirta? Yeah. Any further discussion? Okay, so all in favor of approving the meeting minutes? Let's see, should we go around the room? Because I do need to recuse myself, so. Neil, in favor?
I'm in favor of
Yeah.
approving the minutes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, recuse myself?
Yes.
John? And, okay.
John, were you there? It says you were absent last month. In the meeting minutes, it says you were absent last month. I don't know.
Oh, that's right, I shouldn't be.
Unless you were there, in which case then that should be changed in the minutes.
No, I
Right.
was away.
Okay. And then this is just a point of order, since we have only 3 people voting, can we approve the,
Yeah, as long as it's abstentions,
Abstentions.
it's okay. You
Okay.
can still vote on it. but
okay, okay,
The abstentions don't count one way or the other, but they still fulfill the quorum
the quorum.
requirement.
Okay, thank you.
And so it's okay.
Okay, good. So the meeting minutes are approved. Good. All right. So the next item of business is Todd Selig, town withdrawal from B City.
Oh, yes. So many years ago, really led by Lee Alexander and the Agricultural Commission, Durham had explored and ultimately applied to become a Bee City. And at the time, the Bee City program was run by a smaller organization, and it was ultimately sort of incorporated into a larger group called the Xerces Society, which focuses on things beyond bees. They look at all pollinator species. And my understanding is the program became more complicated. The reporting became more complex. And really, Lee Alexander, who is a Durham resident, member of the Agricultural Commission, he's a beekeeper, was the primary person who was pulling this together. And he's just found over the years that the reporting has become too onerous. And the conclusion was we weren't sure whether it was really worth the effort to do it. So Lee had tried to see whether there were others who might want to step up and take on the program, and there wasn't a lot of it. I think people were supportive of the program, but there was no one who really wanted to take it over. And in addition, we reached out to the Xerces Society to see whether they'd be open to lessening the requirements, or maybe they had some different category we could be part of, and they really didn't. They were pretty steadfast in their approach. So our feeling was we've had a good run with the Bee City program and have done some positive things. And we really have consciously tried to make Durham a friendlier place for pollinators, but that we wouldn't continue in the program. So we've now officially withdrawn from the program, and we've removed our Bee City signage from the entry points of Durham. And so that's the update right now. And Lee is still a beekeeper and still
Oh, yeah.
involved with the Agricultural Commission.
Very much so.
Yeah. So that's the extent of my update.
That's very helpful. And of course, the education that's happened as a result of it persists, right? So we have signs up at Wagon Hill about pollinator areas and out at Oyster River Forest, and so that's not going to change.
No, and it's changed our like mowing practices at Wagon Hill Farm, the frequency. There were a number of reasons for this, but the frequency, there are some areas, I think, where we preserve the milkweed so it can grow and help the butterflies, the monarchs that nest there. So a lot of things we've done over time.
Yeah, it will stick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a
I was
positive.
going to touch upon it
Yeah.
a little bit, just
Yeah,
because
that'd be great.
it's interesting, the timing of this, that Ann included it in the agenda, because recently I got an email from a reporter from NHPR asking about our participation in the Bee City program. I was going to touch base with this in our meeting, but I emailed her back and said, well, we are actually no longer a Bee City, that we didn't renew our memberships this year. But I did say that we manage a lot of our conservation lands for multiple purposes, and one of those, it allows us to manage them for pollinators when appropriate. So she does have a meeting, phone call meeting, like just a 15-minute phone call probably this afternoon. So I will speak to the effect of like what we do at Wagon Hill and other properties. There are a few of our properties that Tom Brighton actually worked on getting identified as Monarch Way Stations, which is like a different certification program through a different organization. And so I think those are the signs that you probably see up at the Mill Nature Sanctuary and Oyster River Forest and Wagon Hill, as well as Thompson Forest. So those are the 4 that are registered. So I was actually looking for some feedback from this committee about what other initiatives, especially you, John. I know the Ag Commission does like the low mow May. And then I didn't know what other programs other groups have done, either rec, and who are we missing? I can't imagine historic committee, to kind of support pollinators in town, other than my work on the conservation areas. Do you have any thoughts?
Not in particular. I mean, there are, obviously, we could be doing other things, including possibly some other organizations that are less difficult to deal with, as Lee would say. But it's a worthy activity. It gives us a certain degree of prestige among the towns of New Hampshire and New England to do that. And I would certainly support it. But that particular organization was problematic, as Lee would
Yeah.
say.
I have heard, my impression is that the Xerces Society really goes for the ideal situation, right? Their goal is to look at, if you want to do something for pollinators, ideally you would like wipe out everything that's there and, you know, and replant it with,
Right.
and that's just really not ideal for most landowners and conservation areas, and so, you know, there's something in between.
But
And so
continuing
that's
to-
where I've heard there be some difficulty working with them, is that they really strive for that idea.
Oh, yeah, no, what they were requiring is not something that townspeople were willing to do.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of opportunity to continue an educational effort in
Yeah,
that area, purely voluntary and educational.
yes, yeah.
Sarah, what's the organization that does the Monarch Way Station? Is that, because it sounds like that's worked well for us and probably doesn't have a huge paperwork burden.
No, and that is, and in private land, I think landowners can do it. There's a minimum size. Give me a second. I can look it up. If I just look up Monarch Ways. Way Station. I think it's like the... All right, sometimes I don't connect to the town. Monarch Watch is the name of the organization.
And so
And you can go,
individual landowners could become part of that if they wanted.
I believe so. Let's see.
That's kind of cool.
You can,
Nice replacement, maybe.
you can go, yeah, you can like go on there and be a part of their registry. And you can purchase signs, you know, so those are the signs that we have. But you get like a certificate. Let's see, I can't remember what the minimum size is. Is that something you'd like me to look up?
Well, it might be, you know, well.
I think it
had
was like it may be 1,000 square feet. And then depending on your size, so like a lot of cities have done this too, like if they put in little pollinator parks, they can they can sign up for these Monarch Way stations, so it doesn't have to be huge.
That might be something that's good for the image of the town without being too burdensome.
Right.
That's the
right.
key.
Oh, right, we could promote that.
Promote that in Friday updates. And were you going to put this in Friday updates, Todd, about the Bee City?
We did do it once, but we could do it again. And we had a little bit of rationale at the time.
And then maybe this is a
Yeah.
option where everybody or many others can
Yep.
be involved.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Have the
So-
land.
Might be wise, Monarch Watch.
Yeah.
On this registration information, it asks what is the habitat location? Is it a home, a business, a school, a nature or education center, a community garden or park, farm, golf course? Like those are all the things you can check off. Retirement home, place of worship, zoo. So it's not really, it's not restrictive necessarily
Yeah.
to municipalities or,
Right.
you know, larger nonprofit.
But a municipality
organizations.
probably could do it.
Oh, yeah, well, we
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
4 of our properties, that's right. Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of other things that we've considered as part of this. One was, you know, a number of years ago when West Nile virus and EEE were concerns amongst the mosquito population, there were a lot of communities that did spraying to try to kill those insects. And we didn't approach it that way because we were concerned about the impact that might have on other populations. So I think only in one year, many, many years ago, when it was a really bad outbreak, did we do larva treatment in very carefully designated areas around some of our fields. But beyond that, we haven't. And then also with using pesticides to control weeds and invasive plants, like we're very, very thoughtful about how we go about doing that. And, you know, a lot of the work for invasives is done by hand. But in some cases, particularly with the Japanese knotweed, I think,
Yeah,
we do treat that with a specialist at times.
yeah, and I was going to actually ask you more about that during our meeting, because I did email Rich yesterday morning, and I haven't heard back from him about what DP does. I know that they do spray, do roadside spraying every year for Japanese knotweed. And it is they have somebody on staff who's been specially trained. And they have, every year, they have a very specific plan, so they don't go outside of that plan. I do know that they have done some spraying for poison ivy at Jackson's Landing. But really, I think it is minimal. I don't think they spray for insects at either of the parks.
No, we don't.
So, and I live right across the street from one of them. So, I've never seen it. Well, I should say once, I think. Brian saw signs up. He said, when we first got here, but it may have been that really bad year of Triple E, and he reached out to Todd, and that was the last and only time we've ever seen those signs or anything like that up across the
I think
street.
it was one year where there
It
was a
was-
particularly bad
Yep,
outbreak and the sports team families were really concerned.
yep.
It's good to realize that while we are part of nature, we're not necessarily any kind of a centerpiece. Nature takes care of itself, and if you give nature a chance, it'll take care of itself to a great extent, with or without our presence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good point. Well said.
It did for a long time before we came along.
Yeah.
Sarah, I have a question for
Yeah.
you. As far as the Monarch Watch program is concerned, do you think this is something that your outreach subcommittee might want to take on at some point in terms of?
Potentially, we're meeting next week, and I can bring it up. Yep.
Okay. Any other comments about Bee City and the town withdrawal? Okay. Thank you, Todd. So the next item on the agenda is Sarah, Long Marsh Bridges grant update.
Okay, well, this would be quick. So I did receive the grant funding for resurfacing the bog bridges. And
Congratulations.
replacement of the, wetlands crossing at the Yellow Trail. So I've been playing some phone tag with the DES, Kristen Duclos from DES, from the Wetlands Bureau, to just touch base with her about a couple details about my wetlands statutory permit by notification that I'll have to submit to do that, the Yellow Trail wetlands crossing. So we've had unmatching vacations. So hopefully I'll have some answers and can have that application in, and that should be a quick turnover. So that probably, the Yellow Trail wetlands crossing, I'm hoping for an installation in September. The plan is at the last week of this month and into the first couple days of August to schedule the resurfacing of the bog bridges with a volunteer work day. The Joanne Glode, who is the stewardship coordinator for this region for the Nature Conservancy, she has 2 interns that she's working with this summer, and she has offered to have them help out on that work day. So I'm waiting to hear from her the availability of her interns that last week, and then we'll schedule the volunteer work days when those interns are available. And it's pretty generous. We'll have 2 full days of the Nature Conservancy interns to help with that project.
How many people are generally needed for that, Sarah?
The more, the better. So the wood is going to be delivered in 2 locations. My plan, the DPW has lent me their truck before. I don't think I probably can borrow another truck and have to drive the materials down from either end to the wetlands crossings. So we'll need volunteers to load and unload those, and they're heavy, hemlock boards. They're 3 inches thick and 10 feet long and 8 inches wide. So it is helpful to have many volunteers with hammers and crowbars taking off the old ones and replacing the new ones.
So it's pressure treated planking, basically?
It is not, it's hemlock.
Oh, hemlock.
It's not
okay.
pressure treated because it's going to be sitting in the water.
Ah.
Yeah. And the idea was that, and that's what has been traditionally used for the last, however long, is it 10 or 12 years since they were originally, no, it's been longer than that, originally put in. And they do break down over time. The plan is, though, to put in a more resilient and permanent crossing when these boards start to break down and need to be replaced again a few years from now.
So are you going to put out a call in the Friday updates for volunteers?
Yes, yep, yeah,
Okay.
once I have those dates nailed down. Yep.
So following up on what, Neil's comment, would the list of volunteers that we compiled as a result of our surveying
Yes.
through the Stewarding Our Lands Working Group, would tapping into that list of people
Yes.
be, where you're reaching
Yeah,
out
yeah.
to individuals
Yep.
who expressed interest in that? Would that be another
Yes.
place to
Yep.
to garner some muscle?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good.
As well as, I will have, I have trail stewards on all the properties, and I've already touched base with the trail stewards at Long Marsh Preserve to let them know and give them a heads up, so they are aware and planning on being available. But I'm planning on reaching out to all of the trail stewards that I have,
Good.
to invite them to help with the project.
Great. Excellent.
And I guess is there any questions about those projects? The other crossing that still needs attention is the old stone culvert. And I have not yet been out to look at it with Greg DeSantis. No, that's not right. What's his last name? That's a politician. From Martin Forestry. There was one day he was available, but I was not, so I'm still trying to touch base with him so that he can come out and take a look at that project and offer some suggestions for an alternative crossing at that location. All right. Land Stewardship Coordinator updates. So I did want to share, I'll share this photo. So I met with, on Monday, actually, some heirs to the Oleanthus doe out at Doe Farm. And, there they are. So they're both Catherine. And so the woman on the left is Catherine Decker, and her aunt, who she's named after, I don't know her last name, is on the right-hand side. Her aunt is 90 years old. And they both used a cane. So I met them out there and drove them down and allowed them to have some access. They called about a month or so ago. And I chatted with Rich Rain and just said, hey, their heirs are going to be out there. Can you have a crew out there, go out there and clean up the cemetery, before they're out there in a few weeks? And he said, sure thing. And it was lovely. They did such a good job. And you can see that if you're looking at the cemetery. It made it really easy for us to get down there and for them to have a look around. There was a little bit, they got lost, so we ended up meeting them a little bit later than expected, so I didn't get to spend as much time with them as I had hoped because of my time commitment on the back side of that time frame that we had originally agreed upon. So,
Do they live in the area?
no, California.
Oh, California.
Oh, my.
They were visiting from California.
Oh.
Yeah. So that was pretty cool.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah.
So just on we get calls sometimes for North Carolina, Durham, North Carolina.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes you can tell by the accent. And so this person called with a southern accent and they said, could I have the Durham Visitor Bureau, please? Then I said, are you calling the right Durham? And they said, yeah, Durham, New Hampshire. I said, well, why do you want the Visitor Bureau? And he said, well, my great aunt who's 90 and cousin are coming to Durham to view a cemetery, and I'm trying to get in touch with them. Do you know how I'd reach them? and because I had been at this meeting last month and you had reported on it, I said, are they coming to the Doe Farm? He said, oh my God, how could you know that? It was so funny. So reached out to Sarah, and she had their phone number, and so I called them back and gave them the phone number, but it was so sweet.
Oh, what a great story. That's fabulous.
Small town, that's the
Yeah.
benefit of a small town, right?
Right, right. The Durham Visitors Bureau. You just said, I'm it.
I'm the everything.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So let's see. Let's see what I did last month. I visited Pike with Neil. I don't think I've reported on that. We went out, Neil's volunteered to do the write-up on the website about the Pike property. And he wanted to head out and take a look and just have a conversation. I said, well, this will be great because I haven't actually been out there in the summer. Like I've been out there, very early spring and the winter, just to see how things are growing in and see what plants are there. So we had a nice walk. Startled a fawn while we were out there. Let's see, I gave that. So I was away on vacation last week. But before I left, I met with the volunteer trail steward at Stolworthy and I actually did some chainsaw work and brushed out the trails. And that was a request made by Rachel because her folks, her camps are focused out of the middle school. So they wanted to make sure they had good trail access back there. I did have a church youth group lined up to do that brushing trail work after school in late May, and they canceled on me. And so this was kind of the backup. But one of the things that the trail steward made me aware of, and we did take a look at, is the fact that their stone culvert along Old Baghdad Road, which is a Class 6 road, and I do have, actually, why don't I plug back in? It got washed out in one of these past winter storms, and it's in pretty rough shape. I did share these photographs and talk to Rich Rain about it. I think he's like, well, I can do an emergency culvert replacement. And I was like, well, I'm not sure you can actually do that on a Class 6 road. Like that's something you can do on a regular road. So because it's used as a trail and the town is limited in how it can maintain it. But I do also think that he needed to look a little bit because I do know that there is a drainage system back there, that there are several manholes in this area on the Stolworthy property and on the school district area, and I don't know if there needs to maintain vehicle access to those those drainage heads. So I can show you. Let me get the photos up. Did I download them or do I just have them did I just email them to myself? That's Doe Farm. Uh-oh, where did I email them? Nope. All right, I thought I emailed them to myself. I might not be able to share them. I don't think I did. All right, anyway, I can open up the map. Oh, I was just there. So this was kind of a rough take on a trails map that I made last year that I shared with Durham Rec because there isn't really a trails map for Stolworthy and the adjacent school district lands. So it's definitely something that could use more attention, the signage and just to kind of orient you, this bottom left corner is actually the middle school, and this is a 2019 aerial image, so there are updated aerial images at this point. So this shows the old school location, not the new one. And then the high school is over here in the top right corner, and the fields in between, and the trails are in the center here. And the red line, the red is the Stolworthy property, and the blue outline is the school district property. Old Baghdad Road, here's Baghdad Road. You can't see my pointer, can you?
No.
Okay. Old Baghdad Road kind of traverses from the left, kind of in a northeasterly direction to the top, kind of takes up that corner. And Old Baghdad Road comes off of that, and then follows that trail and cuts off that corner location and kind of hits the top right. I wish I had a pointer. I could physically point it out
Could you- yeah.
because it's not as clear on this. I do have a line on the maps, but they're not coming across on the screen well.
Will this help?
But this is Old Baghdad, the classics portion of Old Baghdad Road that is used as a hiking trail. This is the access to the Stolworthy property. It's a deeded 40-foot wide access that goes through private property right here. And then this is Stolworthy. And then the middle school's access right now follows along the edge of this retaining wall and cuts through private, and this is a new trail that was cut. It cuts through private property and then connects back to this main trail, because this used to be the access point for the middle school, at the old middle school location. And then from the high school, the access comes from here, right behind the baseball field. If you're familiar with, and there's a wetland, a baseball field, and a little drainage wetland behind it. And there's a little outdoor classroom up here, and then it comes down, you cross over a bridge, and then you veer left for part of the trail, or head straight. That follows along the stone wall, which is the boundary. So that's the trail system out at the school district and Stolworthy properties. Little Hale Brook runs down like this and kind of through the property and then opens up into a big wetland, which you can see on your left-hand side on Co Drive between the middle school and the track fields. Okay? That's what this is, what you're seeing here. And so the culvert that got washed out is right here along that walking trail.
And is that on Durham Town property then? The culvert?
Yeah, yes, because it's along a Class 6 road.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And that, I mean, that's what Long Marsh Road is. Long Marsh Road is a Class 6 road from gate to gate, which is used as a trail, and part of the trail system on Long Marsh Preserve. And it is part of the trail system of the Sweet Trail as well.
So the work that you did, Sarah, on the trails is within the red boundary area?
No.
No?
I mean, I did some chainsaw work up here, and there was like one little thing. I could have used a handsaw, but I had my chainsaw, so I just used it. And then the brushing work that we did was along Old Baghdad Road and the school district trails, primarily. So that, the photos would be telling, and I did, give me a second. Anyway, right now, there's just a skinny little walkway to kind of walk across. So one potential option is just to reroute it off the Class 6 road, and then back, kind of go down. It is a very high elevation change between where the brook is and where the road surface is. So it would be a pretty substantial, it would be something DPW would need to go out there with larger equipment to replace or to even remove. because one option would be to remove it and just put in like a pedestrian bridge over that crossing. But alternatively, we could reroute the walking trail. But again, the question is, I don't know if you need to maintain vehicle access. So just something that Rich was going to go out there and take a look and then get back to me. Any questions about that?
Is the new district superintendent reasonably familiar with the activities of the school district on its own lands and on the town lands in this area?
I have no idea.
He just started July
Yeah.
1st.
Right.
And I'm having lunch with him today.
Oh,
So
okay.
I'll ask him.
Oh, you'll ask him.
Good,
Great.
because it all represents a great, opportunity for the school district with its various nature education and recreation programs and so forth. And some of the land is theirs and some of it's town.
Yes, yep. Yep, and the other thing is that there is private property too, that is this little puzzle piece between the school district and the Stolworthy property. And there is a deeded right-of-way for the public to access off of that Class 6 portion of Old Baghdad Road. I do have temporary signs up there indicating where those begin and end. They're just, the landowners have told me that there are a couple teachers from the high school that do use their property, but they've asked permission, like before they run their leaf collecting experiments or whatever they're doing out there. But it is something to be aware of, that we need to respect that as a private ownership. Anyway. Okay. So the other, I did also do, for those of you who like to go out to Long Marsh Preserve, I weed whacked the yellow trail. This has been, I did this last year too. I have tried, I did ask John Naturally about the ability to get his tractor out there, and it's just too, I think it's really challenging. He wasn't able to do it. Essentially, it's one of those trails that needs it. I haven't been able to find somebody with equipment to go out there or willing to do it. And so, DPW does a lot of work on a lot of the trails, but in this particular case, like the Long Marsh Preserve is not one of the ones that they work out on. So I've gone out there. We also have, as a rule, we do have trail stewards out there, but Todd and I have agreed that we don't want them using mechanical equipment like chainsaws and weed whackers, where there has a greater potential for injury. And so it was fairly grown in. So I did that as well. So, and that's in much better shape. I was amazed at how much it grew in since the last time I had been out there. And then hopefully Myrtle can give an update on how Durham Day went. And I was not there personally, but the C working group is, so I'll give you a little update. We still don't have a better name now, our stewardship engagement, and
So this is the stewarding our group, our working group
like
has
our outreach,
morphed into
education and engagement working group.
Education and, okay.
Stewardship engagement, yeah, that's what we called it, but the Conservation Commission didn't like the name, so we haven't spent the time to come up with a different name yet. But if anybody has any brilliant ideas.
So
on our-
just, I apologize because
Sure.
I've missed a few meetings. And could you
Oh.
give like a synopsis of this group and the charge of the group, since it's morphed from the Stewarding Our Lands group, so this new configuration?
Yeah, so this actually, and they welcome, if there's somebody here who would like to participate in that group. Right now, it's Roanne Robbins, Aaron Hale is the chair, and then and I meet once or twice a month, really. And their primary purpose is to work on programs and activities that educate the community on land conservation and stewardship. And so they are not, as of now, Erin Hale is the vice chair of the Conservation Commission, but she is actually the only member of a committee currently in this working group. So it's not an official subcommittee unless we have more members across a greater diversity of committees, which is one option, but for now we're starting small. Roanne was on the Conservation Commission and has stepped down, but she's very excited and interested in creating programs for the town. And up to the, Erin has met with Rachel Gazowski and one of Rachel's primary requests was that they redevelop Discover Durham Day. Discover Durham Trails. And so for Durham Day, they put together a table. So that's another thing, is that they will be participating kind of in these townwide events with tables to engage and get people connected and understanding different stewardship related topics. So for Myrta will go over, I think you should describe, sorry, Myrta?
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay.
She can talk about that a little bit. At our last meeting, in addition to kind of creating these 3 field trips, upcoming field trips, we talked about Roanne and Erin about creating like a nature notes, like a monthly publication that they would post in Friday updates. It might have just a 1-page thing that has maybe 3 or 4 simple articles. Roanne really wanted to have something about phenology, like what's happening now in our natural world. There might be an invasive species spotlight, just kind of producing like a simple, digestible, educational publication on a monthly basis for the town. And as part of that, I helped coordinate some of those field trips, and I have been trying to update the descriptions that Jim Lawson meet with him. Are again another person where our vacations have been off, so we talked about meeting some point this week or next week to kind of finalize descriptions that he has been working on based off of something that we discussed at our stewardship working group, our stewarding our lands working group, that came out of those. So hopefully that will be ready to present at the next meeting as well. And as well as updating like a town-wide trails map is also something I've been looking into. And then the last thing, I guess, is the trails analysis. So there's a couple different routes that we can go. I did meet with Charlotte Thompson from UNH Cooperative Extension. She is the person primarily responsible for managing and using the HETAP, which, don't ask me what it means, I'm not going to remember, machine that the Southeast Land Trust owns. And I think I described this at the last meeting, but essentially it looks like a jogging stroller with a computer on it and sensors. And you can bring it down trails and you stop every 25 feet and it takes a photograph and makes all these measurements, like the camber and the slope. And the trail, what's your, and then you need to make comments about, well, what kind of, what is your surface tread? how wide the trail is. So it incorporates all that information. So it spits out a whole lot of information, and they haven't quite figured out how to take that information and make it digestible and applicable, but it collects all of it, and it's very much specific to creating trails or using the data to create trails that are ADA compliant. All right. They are not, Charlotte doesn't feel comfortable going out to Wagon Hill and running that kind of analysis unless the town is really interested in moving forward with taking actions based off of that information that they gather to make updates at Wagon Hill. So alternatively, Enoch, who works actually for, he's an independent consultant and wheelchair bound out of Maine. He can do an analysis, but it's really more, I always mix these up. It's objective versus subjective. Like it's about based on his experience and his ability to access trails while he's in his wheelchair, essentially. So, and he will write up a report. I do, Charlotte did tell me actually that he has been hired by